News Live. I'm so excited that you're here. Gosh, man, I've known Andrea for such a long time. When I first started at Social Media Examiner, she was like right there too. I remember we got on the bus and we're doing welcoming things when we'd get on the bus with people. Remember that? That was so
That's right. That
crazy.
was so fun. That was
Yeah,
so
it
fun.
was like
Such
you,
a
me,
good
and
time.
Steve Dotto did that. So it was just
Oh my
back in the
God. That
day.
was
Yeah,
so great back
yeah.
in the day.
So anyway, so glad you guys are joining us. Andrea is amazing. You guys are going to love her. So I want to make sure that you guys have enough time to ask your questions. So feel free to ask your questions. We'll try to bring them on the screen during the show because we want to make the show all about you. And if you know somebody who's like, man, this Facebook stuff, it keeps changing. I don't know which way is up anymore. Well,
okay, but I gotta ask though.
You got to ask them in
do
the
we
comments.
say Facebook or do we say Meta?
I
Or
don't
can we
know.
talk about just Facebook specific? No, I'm asking Andrea. Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram.
So
What do you
I'm telling
use?
you, old habits die hard. I am still calling it Facebook. And actually, I was
Okay.
just writing an article today for Search Engine Land just a little bit ago, and I could not bring myself to call it Meta all the time. I was like, well, you know what? I
But
just
for
put it in
me-
parentheses a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, Meta is Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp.
The whole thing.
All the whole thing, right? And
Yeah.
so when you're
Oculus.
talking about, but what we're really talking about is today is like Facebook and Instagram. And Jeff had told me that you were excited about them again. I was like, if Andrea's excited, I'm going to be excited.
Yeah.
So we're here to be excited, but we're going to talk about Facebook ads and Instagram ads, right?
I know, you guys, I am so excited about ads again. I'm like, I can't even, I feel sort of like so much renewed energy. I feel like a kid again. We're
Oh,
back
cool.
to, it's back. And it's, it was a tough couple of years. I'm
it's a
not going to
slog.
lie. It
Yeah.
was rough. And it was like, I was considering changing professions. I'm like, all right. I'm like, gotta get out.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? It's been working even in quarter four of last year. It really was working well. Usually the fourth quarter is pretty difficult, but it was still working well. I'm seeing results with my clients' ads that I've been advertising for a long time. Unlike I've seen, I mean, the pandemic days were a bit of an anomaly because everyone was online doing nothing. But it's really back to a much better conversion level.
Cool.
We're getting much better ROI. I'm excited again. So that's why I'm here to
That's awesome.
say it's safe. It's safe to come back, everybody.
Right. We'll call it MetaFace. How about that? MetaFace is what we're going to
Okay,
call
we're
it.
going to talk about our MetaFace strategy.
So
All right,
I want to.
Jeff,
So
take
we're
it
going to
away.
get ready to start the show really quickly, like the produced, like I'm starting the podcast show. But I want to do a shout out to our friends. We got Jim Fuse over at Fusion Marketing, watching us on Facebook, saying good morning, Jeff, Andrea, and Grace. Thanks, Jim, for tuning in. And we have our friend Brian Farrell, who's watching from sunny San Diego this time. He's back in the States. He's usually in Barcelona or some exotic locale. Brian, thank you so much for watching today. And my friend Gary Stockton is here as well. Thanks, Gary. He and I have been chatting over on the IGs because he's there doing a really good job. And then Dustin just gives us a wave. Just, hey,
Dustin.
Hi,
kind of a
Justin.
little wave. So,
Well, then Jim here says, the confusing world of Facebook workflows for real business, to emphasis real business here, need answers, and today's the day. Okay, well, today's your day, Jim. We're here for you.
It is. It's
and
your
Chris
day.
goes, is MetaFace better than Google Plus? Google Plus cannot be beat, Chris. I'm very, very sorry.
We're hitting all of Jeff's high points today. We talked about magic. We
Right.
just hit Google Plus within the first
That's right.
5 minutes.
It's the drinking game.
It's
Jeff's
the
drinking
drinking
game. Yeah. And Deb Mitchell saying hi. Thanks, Deb, for tuning in. All right, so I'm going to hit go on the podcast machine, and we'll get started. And this is going to be a great show because I'm so excited Andrea's here. So here we go. Let's get started. Let me get all my notes ready, and we will. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Hello, folks. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
And I'm Grace Duffy, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on the world of social media. And today's the day we invited Andrea Vall to join us, and she's excited. If you were here for the pre-show, you heard about this excitement about advertising on Facebook and Instagram again. And Andrea has seen a lot of improvements with Facebook and Instagram ads lately, and she's excited, and she's going to share that excitement with us. And so we invited her to tell us why. We've also come to learn about how to get your ad campaigns to perform. She's got a lot of content on her blogs about how to do this processes. We're going to dig into those a little bit today so that your campaigns can get up and running faster, easier, and more cost effectively again. And if that's what you're interested in doing, it's like our friend here, Jim, you've come to the right place. And then with reports heading into 2023, telling us that businesses were looking to diversify their social media spend, Andrea's here to get us pumped about Facebook and Instagram ads again. So Andrea, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Jeff and Grace. It's exciting to be here again. It's been a while, and thank you for inviting me back to your show. And just I'm excited to talk about Facebook ads because, like I was saying, they are performing better than they have in a long time, and I'm seeing better tracking, better optimizations. Facebook, I think, has really gotten its act together in terms of the type of learning it's able to do, the way your ads are served, and it's not less confusing. I will say that it's still confusing
Right.
to set up a good ad campaign, but it's very, very possible. I'm getting opt-in costs for some clients like as low as 50 cents back. You know,
Wow.
I hadn't, it's like crazy to see that
Wow.
kind of opt-in cost again for some of my clients. And even clients long performing clients that are getting like lead costs of like half of what they used to be even like 6 months ago. So it's really, really beautiful.
Well,
So
we've got a ton of questions for Andrea.
that's
Jeff and I
right.
wrote, but everyone in
Yeah.
the audience, please drop your questions in. You're the ones running Facebook ad campaigns and Instagram ad campaigns. So talk to us about what are your pain points, what are your questions, and we will bring them up on the show. We've got a ton of stuff to get through, but we
Yeah.
want to prioritize you and what you want to know because we are here for you, audience.
Yes. And by the way, I want to introduce you to Andrea because, as you can tell, she's super smart about all this stuff. She's been doing it for years. She knows the confusing lingo that Facebook and Meta is. But she is a Facebook and Instagram ads expert and is the co-author of Facebook Marketing All-in-One for Dummies. And her newest book is Facebook Ads Made Simple. She speaks and trains all over the world and has managed over $6 million in ad spend for her clients. She's also a stand-up comedian, which is it's just she's just funny. So she's you love her. And you can learn more at andreavall.com. And her latest passion project is the Late Starters Club podcast, where she shares inspirational stories of those above a certain age who decided to go for their dreams. So it's an incredible podcast. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you give her a rating and review because it really does help podcasters out, and share it with your friends because it's kind of a newish podcast. So go check it out, listen to it, give her a rating and review, and and we'd all appreciate it. So Andrea, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the shout out to my podcast. I have been loving my podcast too. It's super fun. Just started in October and it's been amazing. So that's great. And
Yeah.
fun to see you at Podfest last
That's
week.
right. And the podcast will be coming up in your neck of the
Yeah.
woods. So I'm excited about
Yeah.
that. I'm also excited about our friends who sponsored the show, Ecamm. So you can find out more about them at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. I don't know if you know this or not because I've talked about it all the time, but it's really easy to create a podcast with Ecamm because you have the separated audio tracks. Makes it really easy. That's what we do for our show. And if you have a Mac, it's a no-brainer to get the software. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or comment under the show, and I'll do my best to answer. And if I can't, Ecamm has an incredible community where they can answer your questions. We've talked about their community here in the past. They're just spectacular. And 4.0 just rolled out, which is incredible. It now doesn't just do isolated audio tracks. It does isolated video tracks if you have Mac Silicone, which means I have separated, like I have Andrea separated, I have Grace separated, and I can repurpose it on all the TikToks and all the things because it is so amazing. So make sure you guys to go to socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm and check them out. All right, Grace. Let's get going because I know Andrea's got to leave right at the end. So we gotta
We're gonna
pick her
hustle.
brain.
So, yes. So Facebook and Instagram ads in 2023, despite frequent controversies, countless reiterations, profitability challenge, and privacy battles, Facebook still remains a marketing powerhouse. It's one of the founding platforms that continues to survive, and it's better than ever. So tell us, Andrea, what is exciting you about Facebook, Instagram ads? We covered this a little bit at the beginning, but here
Yep.
for the podcast audience, tell us what is getting you excited about them?
Yeah, so the performance has improved quite a bit with Facebook ads and Instagram ads. And that is because Facebook has gotten better with their machine learning, their AI, and if you have the Facebook Pixel installed, you're going to get better results on your ads. And that's always been true, but during that period where Apple iOS rolled out and messed everything up, it was just really, really terrible. And Facebook has finally gotten things back dialed in. And what I'm seeing work right now much better is wide targeting in a lot of cases. So wide open targeting with like very few keywords or pretty broad keywords with large audiences. And I used to never recommend that. I used to always say, hey, dial in your interest, put your keywords in there, dial that in to your customer avatar. And right now what I'm seeing is put some demographic boundaries on it. Obviously, if you are working with only women in the 35 to 55-year-old range, you want to put that boundary on it. But otherwise, you can think about keeping a lot of it wide open or pretty wide keywords. And Facebook has taken away a lot of keywords actually that used to work really well, and even some that I don't know why they took away, but they did. And so now we are left with wide targeting. Wide targeting is oftentimes outperforming lookalike audiences from what I've seen. So, and sometimes you have to recreate the lookalike audiences from where they were at before. I'm just noticing some weird glitches that are happening there. So what that leaves us with is we don't have to focus as much on the audience targeting. We can focus a little bit more on the creative targeting. So that's a cool thing because that's going to save us money and hopefully get us better results and allow us to dial into that creative that's performing best.
Awesome. So we have a question like right off the bang, and I love it. Keep your questions coming because I want to, I always say this is like free consulting for us because your questions are what I need. So Venna goes, one of the biggest questions I get from new clients is what is the minimum ad spend that will work with the Facebook algorithm? So you're talking about kind of doing this broad net, like how much do we need to start spending before we can really kind of dial it in and like, really optimize?
Right. So that is a huge question. And I think what people worry about is that they have to have a big budget in order to be successful. And that isn't necessarily true. What you really need is that pixel to be kind of trained to the types of audiences that are opting in to your offer or buying your product. And so what that means is you want to get that pixel installed earlier. If you can do Conversion API, the Conversion API implementation, that's going to be your best bet because you're going to get the best reporting, best information. Facebook's going to get the best information from the types of people who are opting in. So, so in terms of budget, it varies so much between industry and what you're advertising, because it's going to be very different for example, I have a client that is a law office and their lead cost is $100. So that means that in order to get significant results, I need to have a spend that's probably over thousands of dollars in order to see what's really working with that. Whereas if you're advertising a lead magnet that's really, really broad, like good for pet owners, then that lead cost might be really, really low because that market's really wide. So you have to kind of get a baseline for yourself and understand from there how significant the results need to be for you to feel good about making a decision about what is really working for you.
Gotcha. So I wanted to just ask real quickly, you mentioned that Conversion API, and some people may not be familiar with that.
Right.
Is that something that you can set? Does Facebook walk you through setting that up on your own? Or is that something where I need to hire Andrea to set this up for me? Talk about that a little bit.
No. Yeah. So there's a few different ways you can get that installed, and some are easy, some are harder. So the easy ways is sometimes the tool that you're using has a very easy integration. If you're using something like Shopify, that is a very easy connection point. Facebook walks you through it very easily in their integration partners in the events manager area in your ads manager. So that would if you have WordPress, you can do it very easily. It has some other partners that are easy to integrate with. But if you have sort of a difficult website, if you don't have ability to add code to websites, you might need your website developer to help you out with that. And in some cases, it's not really critical because if it's better if you're having a lot of purchase decisions that are being made on your site. If you're like a realtor or something like that, where you're just sending them more for maybe lead generation,
Mm-hmm.
you a lot of times then the Facebook pixel will suffice in that tracking.
Gotcha. All right.
So there was this interesting article from Entrepreneur Magazine, and it was all about growing a business using Facebook ad strategy. And I love Entrepreneur because it's like that. To me, it's almost like the everyman's, every woman's resource for business, right? Because it's not as the specific journals that we read for our social media. So this is a quote from this article. It says, "Every ad campaign costs a percentage of profits. Of course, the cost should be it should account for an acceptable loss. Unfortunately, many business owners and entrepreneurs unfamiliar with optimization strategies, Facebook ads, can quickly envelope the profits and budget and marketing budgets. Correcting marketing losses is about identifying a campaign's leaks or weak points. The only way to identify ineffective ads is to compare ads. Still, it is only possible to identify and correct potential errors if you know the right design, implementation, and measurement strategies." And so that is what you're here to talk to us about, Andrea, is these designs, implementations, and measurement strategies. But what worked before may not be working now. If Facebook and Instagram ads aren't performing like they once did, how can we right this ship, as Entrepreneur put it, and get our Facebook ads on track? And how do we go about starting to identify these leaks and weak points that they've identified?
Yeah, that is one of the biggest problems that most business owners have, is they don't know how to read the reports. They don't know how to take a look and identify like the kind of flow of their funnel, so they can see where things are going wrong. Where are people dropping out, and why are we getting the results that we are at the bottom end? So the first step is getting your tracking in place, right? So for sure that you're actually tracking your lead cost properly, tracking your sales properly, tracking things like add to cart. And if you like I said, if you use a tool like Shopify or something like that, that'll automatically track those purchase markers there. But for people who are using some sort of lead gen technique, you want to make sure you've got the right pixel in place so it's tracking properly. So what you want to look at, what I like to kind of think about this as, is like a waterfall strategy. And the first part of that waterfall is your CPM, your cost per 1,000 impressions. So, if your CPM is high, because that's what Facebook uses to bid, basically. If your CPM is really high, that's going to trickle down to the rest of your results. So it's going to be really hard to get a great lead cost when it costs so much to show your ad to 1,000 people, right? So if it's costing like $50 or $100 to show your ad to 1,000 people, and only 1% of those people are opting in, you're going to get a high lead cost. So looking at your stats and being able to analyze them is a big, big step. And so for those business owners who are looking to advertise on Facebook, you need to get the right training, or otherwise you're just flushing a bunch of money down the drain.
Right,
You just, you might as well either pay someone to do it right for you, or understand that you've got to get the right training. And I definitely suggest, even if you pay someone, you still get the training so you know exactly what's going on. You can read those reports yourself. So like I said, it's not simple. Facebook doesn't, Facebook tries to make some things simple, but like, I think the boosted post is too simple. That's not going to give you good results. But then, the better strategy is setting up your ads optimized in the ads manager, but that can feel a little daunting as well.
Right. So back to this quote from the Entrepreneur Magazine. It says it's only possible to identify and correct potential areas if you know the right design, the implementation, and measurement strategy. So you mentioned, you know this yourself. So let's say Andrea Vahl is like, you can't book her anymore. She's full. She can't take any more clients because she's just, their stuff she's doing is so great. So what should somebody who needs help with this look for? Because I kind of feel like Facebook or Meta strategists and gurus are almost kind of getting into that. Remember SEO? And it's still that way. Like SEO, there was a lot of snake oil out there where people were like, so what do businesses need to look for to know that these people really know what they're talking about, and like it's okay to invest with this person or this agency?
Right, for sure. I would take a look at the articles they've put out there. I would take a look at kind of what they're publishing, if they're speaking, things like that
Hmm.
that kind of are markers that they are a true expert. And one thing I like to caution people against is getting involved with someone who is just talking a bunch of lingo and not coming down to where you need to understand what's happening.
Hmm.
Because you know, that's a big pet peeve of mine. I don't
Right.
like when people are like the CPLs and CPM and CBO and blah blah blah, and and
Right.
I'm like, just speak English.
Right.
What are you talking about? And it's okay if you know those acronyms, and it's okay if you're like, speaking with other people who know those acronyms. But sometimes I feel like some agencies are just using it to seem as cool as possible and keeping everything as
Right.
guarded and inaccessible as possible. So I would say work with someone who is a true expert in the field and has put articles out there or put written good content and you feel comfortable with, and who also doesn't talk down to you.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's key. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, big thing for people following the news out there is that there's a sense that things like the iOS 14 data privacy measures from Apple, EU restrictions, and then internal changes within Meta have made performance marketers' jobs a lot more difficult because this
Yep.
is kind of just what's out there. This is the news. We don't
Yep.
always listen. I don't think they always have the proper context. But tell us, real time, real world, actual someone that's digging in the ditches and building those trenches. Could you tell us what it's been like for you and your clients, and what adjustments have you had to make to accommodate for these big scaries?
Yes, and the huge thing here is attribution, right? People really want to know that their ad campaign is working and what is working in their ad campaign. And it's a whole different world than it used to be when you'd like buy an ad in the yellow pages or put up a billboard and you'd be like, well, hope that works.
Hmm.
It's like
Right.
it's like now everything is so nice and trackable, which is sometimes good and bad, right? Because we've lost some tracking, but there is this modeling that Facebook is doing to get better. And I've found actually that the modeling is doing pretty well. And that's why I think Facebook is improving in their results. So what I would say is really understand like how you are going to track those actual results. And so that can come from a whole different funnel separate from organic, right? So you've got the ads going to their own landing page, and that the only way someone is getting into that funnel
Right.
is from the ads. You're not sharing that page with anyone else. It's being tracked separately in the back end of your email system, your CRM. You are then tracking what happens to those leads. Are they opening emails? Are they buying stuff?
Hmm.
Are they reaching out? Are they active? And so that's a really good way to track. And just making sure you're tracking in your own system and not leaving it just to Facebook to track. So how are you going to do that? Could be tagging, could be UTM codes. It could be, and those are the
Right.
really long Google
Hmm.
links that, push that information back into your database so that you can say, hey, where did that contact originally come from? We're going to look at that tag or that whatever we've pushed in there to see, so we can say, yeah, for sure. And that's one thing, like I'm doing with realtor clients, for example, where they're able to then track, hey, we got 12 deals for sure from our ad campaigns last year, and we know that
Right.
resulted in X amount of business. So we know that we're profitable, and that's what the name of the game is here, because it's not just a money drain that you want to just
Right.
keep
Right. Throw it at. Yeah.
hoping that it's going to work.
So, really quickly, I wanted to go back to a comment. Chris Stone goes, DBA, death by acronyms. See what I did there? I did see that. Yes. But so one of the things in kind of that same vein is, I know, especially with you, I know you've trained clients in the past, and now this like fire hose of like the Apple stuff got turned off, where you can't track stuff. So how should we, as the business owners or users, like change our targeting and measurement goals in light of those changes? Like, what should we, before it was kind of easy and you could, look and see, how should we readjust what we're thinking, and like knowing that some of those data points are going to be there? Like, what do you tell people, like, okay, this is what you really need to look at now, and, to measure success?
Right. So I think it comes back to, I don't think this part has changed dramatically. I mean, obviously we've got different measurements in place, but I think always with our marketing, and what people don't always do is to really understand where their cost per acquisition is, or how much they can afford to spend on acquiring a new lead or new potential client. And so, it's going to be a function of what are your conversion rates to buying that certain product? What's your product price point? So if you have 1,000 leads come in and 2% of those leads buy, you're going to get 20, right? Am I doing my math right? No.
Never do 40, math on live 40, TV. Never, ever.
I know. It's so bad. I have So you get 40 clients, but so how much can you afford to spend based on your product price point, taking into account how much does it cost you to, make that product or whatever. So you've got to know a lot of math in order to make this all work. And that's where I think marketers or businesses get a little tripped up, is they're not tracking some of this stuff in the level of detail that it really should be tracked, so that they can make good marketing decisions on how much they can spend on each ad campaign.
That's good. Yeah. Even if it's something as little as, like you were saying, as learning how to do UTM codes where you can track it, like the landing page, that can give you a huge insight of just something simple like that. So.
Right. And just doing a small test, like saying, okay, we're going to test this particular funnel. We know that when we send Facebook traffic there, we're getting, like, say, $10 per lead. And then, 10% of those people go on to the next page. And then, and just really like spending some time seeing how people progress, and then finding out, hey, why didn't you buy, or whatever it might be, and seeing if you can improve those numbers in a small way. Because if you're tracking all the way through the funnel, you see a lot of people drop out at the add to cart. What does that mean? And how can you improve that experience?
Those are all great tips.
We have a great question here from our friend Chris Stone. He says, what do you say when to clients who are distracted by all the new shiny objects in advertising? We're talking about AI tools. We're talking about ChatGPT, and then get them intrigued or excited about Facebook ads again, when it just seems so old school, because guess what? Facebook is tried and true. So it seems old school when there's and we had a question earlier, we kind of skipped over it, but it was just like, there are a lot of advertising options, like TikTok and all the newest things, right? So how do you get them into Facebook?
Yeah. So what you tell them is, you'd be like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ChatGPT your TikTok ads, and then we're going to, we're going to make a reel, and then we're going to go, go out. No, we're going to go in Reddit, and we're going to, So the reality is, I think what you really have to, I think it does make sense to diversify and test, for sure. I'm advising all my clients to do that. I'm advising people who are running ads for clients to diversify and test. But the reality is, Facebook still has close to almost 3 billion monthly average daily users, or monthly users. They just surpassed 2 billion daily users, far more than TikTok, Reddit, all those sites. So, I think it makes sense to test, and why not do a little test on, I'm going to be testing Pinterest ads this weekend. I'm going to be testing some TikTok ads coming up. So it does make sense to test. I'm running Google and YouTube ads as well, and seeing, hey, where are we landing with these costs? And a lot of times Google's driving super cheap traffic, but Facebook's actually driving the leads. So, that's what you have to track. And it's just a matter of how much the client wants to fractionalize their budget.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a big budget, that's the other thing too. Sometimes they're like, I got $100. I want to advertise on all the platforms. I'm like, no, that's
that don't work. Yeah. I get that. Well, I think that the thing is testing, and things change. That's the other thing is that's one, we went back to, like, how do you know a guru is like really somebody you should invest in.
Yeah.
And it's like that they're testing stuff. They're not just sitting there going and, just regurgitating stuff from, 2008. They actually are going and trying new things. So, so let's see. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for this, Grace. We're going to talk about these structuring Facebook ad campaigns because it has changed a little bit. And Andrea, as you can tell, she tests things, she dives in, she's doing all these different things for different types of clients. So I really want to dive into the best way to structure these campaigns.
Absolutely. And you had a really great article on your site, Andrea. It was Facebook advertising, how to structure your Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns, actually. So give us the overview of this on our show today. How should businesses structure their ad campaigns to maximize on returns, which is what we're all interested in doing?
Yeah, and one thing that definitely happens with Facebook is sometimes they give you bad advice. Shocking. What?
No, what?
So, I know. So the way I like to especially start with my testing campaigns is definitely start your campaign with very limited focus tests. So you are using what's called ad set budget optimization, and that's you're dedicating that budget at the ad set level to each different audience to start. Oop, there's my cat.
Oh,
I didn't shut the door.
cat video. There we go.
I know, cat cam. So you're structuring your ad set budgets with their own budget. It might be like, say, $10 a day, and you're testing each different audience. Maybe you have 3 different audiences you're testing at $10 a day. And then below that, you're using the same exact creative, same exact image, same everything, so that at the end of this, like, say, 4 to 5 day period, when you're running that test, you'll know which audience is performing the best. And you might test, like, let's go totally wide. Let's go a lookalike audience. And then maybe let's try a few interests, like, but also fairly wide too, and see which audience does the best during that time. Now, your budget's going to depend a little bit on, like, again, your opt-ins, what you're advertising and stuff like that. But that's a great way to start. And then you're going to move on to testing like your creatives from there. So then you're going to say, hey, let's pick the best performer from that first set of audience tests. And now we will test a different image, a couple of different images, and maybe a video, and see how that goes. And at the end of this 10-day period, you're going to have the best audience and the best creative in there, and then you can start scaling up from there. And I am a lot of times still scaling in an ad set budget optimized campaign where I'm just adding to that budget. I'm just scaling that vertically up. Sometimes what people do is they do move those in, start a campaign budget optimization structure where then Facebook gets to decide where the budget is being spent. And, you're kind of leaving it up to the Facebook algorithm to then pick your best ads. But if you've tested those ads, you're usually only putting the best performers in that campaign budget optimized ad.
Gotcha.
Scale campaign is basically what that would be.
So I wanted to, before I kind of dive into some what you just said, I wanted to ask, you mentioned like 10 days. Is that what you usually, before you make changes, you let something sit for 10 days before you go and tweak it again?
Yeah, I definitely let something sit for a good few days. And it depends a little bit on the budget because you want to have significant results. Again, if you're coming back to that employer campaign where it's, $100 per opt-in, you're only spending $50 a day, you're not going to get significant results at that point. So you always want to know your own baseline for what the opt-in costs are coming in at. So, but I don't usually turn something off after a day or two because it takes a while for the algorithm to kind of settle down. And sometimes I'll notice that something's just a dud right out of the gate. Like maybe the CPM cost is really high for some reason, and it's super expensive to get that 1,000 impressions. And then I'm saying something weird is quirky is going on here, and let's relaunch, for example. So I like to at least give it a good few days. It depends a little on the budget, but for sure you need to get some significant results with that.
Gotcha. So I wanted to go back to, your blog post, because you mentioned there's two types of Facebook and Instagram campaign structures, and one of them was, I think you even talked about a little bit, Advantage campaign budget optimization, and the other one was the ad set budget optimization. So once again, those are those acronyms like CBO and ABO. So can you talk a little bit about those two?
Yeah, so to make matters worse, Facebook has brought in a new thing. So it's ad set budget optimization, where you're setting the budget at the ad set level, which is where the targeting is and things like that. And then there's campaign budget optimization, where you're setting it at the top level, and then all the budget you set at that top level is optimized by Facebook, not always correctly, but to the elements underneath. Facebook also introduced this thing called Advantage Plus shopping. Advantage Plus is kind of a new thing that they introduced recently. Not everyone has access to Advantage Plus shopping, but Advantage Plus shopping is solely for e-commerce.
Okay.
And it is basically like a real top level budget that you set, and Facebook is doing all the machine learning optimization underneath. Those campaigns are working really great for e-commerce right now. So if you do have that and if you do have that available, and you've got an e-commerce store, a catalog, you can use those. You can use that optimization. But yeah, there's two basic structures, and when you're in that testing phase, the ad set budget optimization is the best, because you're dedicating that budget to each of those audiences, and then you're going to get a more fair comparison. Because what happens is sometimes Facebook decides, like right out of the gate, oh, we spent 10 cents on that campaign, we're done with it. Right. And you don't get any real results from it. You don't really know if that one actually did well. And so you want to kind of control that a little bit more.
Yeah. Man, all these names like Advantage Plus shopping. It sounds like something my optometrist has, like, to get me on their eye care plan. Advantage.
Yeah.
Come on, Facebook. Anyway, and so Venice says, like, her rule of thumb is to wait 7 days until there's to see if there's a dud or not. So I thought that was that was good. So
7 to 10 days seems reasonable, though. 7 to 10 days is enough time to know, right?
Right.
So.
For sure.
So you also talked about in that article, you plotted a 10-day split testing plan. Can you kind of just generally, we're going to point people to the article, but kind of generally talk about that split testing plan, because I think it's super smart, and a lot of people may overlook something like this.
Yeah. So what happens is that people test like one or two things, and then they're like, well, Facebook ads didn't work for me. Nope. Or they're setting the campaign up incorrectly, and they're putting all the images and and changing like a bunch of different things all at once. So you want to approach your testing plan very systematically. And so what that is dedicating that budget to each audience, like, say, just as an example, $10 a day to each audience, if you were, and then you really know which audience at the end of that time period worked well. And like, if you did, so it's just a really systematic, structured way to test. And it often takes lots of different images in order to get a winner. Like, sometimes I'll have this huge difference between one image and another image. One will be like $12 per lead. The other one will be $3 per lead. And so when you can get, like, whatever that is, 60% better results. I don't know, math. Oh my God, why am I still trying to do it? But when you can get that kind of improvement in your results and be able to scale that up, that's where you can really find what's working. And you want to also pick very different things to test, because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to vary the color of this like banner. And I'm like, no, you want to test like something that is big, text only ad, big, you in a big picture, or maybe a stock image and like something else, or they're like, really test different looking images in order to give yourself the most information about what's working, what can work.
Gotcha. So, and I said her name wrong, Vina. Sorry, Vina. She goes, it seems like brighter images perform better.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads to my next question. Like, how much money should we our budget allocate to like this testing stuff? Like, do we throw a lot of money at the beginning and then like bring it back down, or how do you usually run that?
Yeah. So usually it's a little bit of like, what's your overall marketing budget? And if you don't know that, sometimes it is like, based on the product price, like how many products do we think that we can safely sell, or that we could sell if we had this kind of results in the beginning. If we knew that our lead cost was, $5 per lead, and then the product cost was $1,000. Like, how does that, just doing a little math to figure out what your overall budget is. And then sometimes it really is kind of this iteration testing period. It depends a little bit on like, is it like a launch where you have a hard deadline, and you can't necessarily ramp up your testing for months. I mean, you might start building up your leads with some different lead magnets for sure, but it's not like during that promotion period, you have a fixed endpoint. It's not like products always on sale. So,
Right.
so sometimes people have a rule of thumb of like 20% of your overall marketing budget, you would start with testing. I like kind of having this approach that you're testing kind of all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
You're kind of like saying, okay, we've got some winners here. Let's take a look at the commonalities on what these winners are about. Like, could we add another image that is very similar to this one and get the same results and then lower our overall costs? So I did that just recently with a client where we noticed this darker image was actually working well. And it was just this dark image of a person in a hallway. And so I went out and found another dark image of a person in a hallway, kind of very similar. And so we launched that, lowered our overall costs because we now have two really good winners in there.
So back on that same. Sorry, Grace. This is fascinating to me. So what do you think moves the needle more when you're testing? Is it changing out the images or changing out the copy?
Yeah, I've definitely. Yeah, that's a hard one. I don't test as many variations of copy as I should. I think the image is the bigger lever there, the bigger needle mover, if you want to put it that way. So I'm focusing a little more on images, but I just actually launched a campaign where we had some really different text, although you know what? I think that was still the images there. The images really make the biggest difference. So if you have limited budget, focus more of your attention on that rather than the nuanced copy.
Right.
I think you can always improve your copy and kind of refine it and, test it kind of thing. But the images are the bigger needle mover.
That's what's going to stop the scroll, right? That's what's going to get people to like stop and like pay attention. Yeah. So I think that's really important because, it depends on your client, but a lot of times they'll really focus on like, I got to craft the words perfectly and like, just whip out the image. Okay. Cause that was a crappy image, right?
I know.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Grace, I interrupted, but you have the next one.
No, absolutely. Well, I want to skip to this part because I think it's very important. You mentioned this already about where you have a lot more, you have a lot more leeway when it comes to creativity and testing different things. So the advice we always hear is create ads that don't look like ads. Easier said than done, I think, maybe. Can you tell us what this means when it comes to Facebook and Instagram specifically when it comes to our advertising? How do we create ads that don't look like ads?
Yeah, I've been looking at that a little more, just especially because I'm curious about it, and because you sent those questions to me, and I was like, I'm going to see if I can figure out what's working. So, I went and looked at a lot of different. What you can do is that I love doing is you can go and see on any page what ads they're running. So you can go to any competitor page, any big marketer page, and you can go look at their page transparency section. Sometimes it's on their about section, sometimes it's in the left column, and you can see page transparency, or you can just go to the ads library and do some searches too. But you can go see what people are running and see what feels like it's working. You can't tell exactly what's working, but you can tell when an ad is working because it's been running a long time. And unless the people just like burning money, I don't know, that could be too. I don't know what they're doing. But usually ads, big marketers you can see if they've been running an ad for a couple of months, you know that it's working. And I've seen a mix. So the ads that don't look like ads are basically really casual images, something that looks like I've seen like pictures of their baby, pictures of wedding pictures. And I'm like, this wedding has nothing to do with what you're talking about,
Right.
but it did get me to stop the scroll because I was like, do I know those people? And then I'm like, no, this is an ad. This is, and I sort of get annoyed by it when it has
Hmm.
absolutely nothing to do with what they're actually advertising. Like if they're, you know, whatever advertising,
Hmm.
digital marketing strategies with their wedding
Right.
photos. I feel like that's a little creepy. So, so you're using your baby to sell your products, but
Yeah.
maybe. So the other thing that another thing that I've seen is really casual videos. People for a long time talked about user generated
Right.
content. So that would be like a really casual video of your client sitting in their car saying, "Hey, I love your product," or or even you sitting in
Hmm.
your car, really casual. And I've seen those ads that seem to work really well. I think I haven't done a lot of testing on, okay, let's use a casual image versus one with
Right.
a lot of big bold text and bright colors. But in my experience, I definitely see a lot of more ads in general that have
Hmm.
that big text, bold, colorful type of stuff that is trying to get our attention while you're scrolling really fast. And so again, it all comes down to testing in your industry, what you think your clients are going to respond to. And yeah, if
Right.
you're going to use your wedding photos, I think you should get the okay from that
That's
on.
right. Don't use your neighbor's kids' pictures. That's a big no-no,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
yeah.
thought what you said though was genius because I've been using it ever since they like started letting you see what companies are running their campaigns and diving in. That's a huge
Hmm.
way to learn what's working. I think that's a great piece
Yeah,
of advice. The other thing is we were just both at Podfest, and I remember sitting in. It
yeah,
was how to grow your podcast organically, and they were talking about Facebook and Facebook ads. And one of the things they said that was really really working, like it like 10x their subscribers, was actually going in and using those casual images instead of, they said, instead of making your your audiogram for your podcast or whatever, your clip from your podcast look like a Facebook ad, make it look
yeah,
organic. And he said he saw
yeah.
incredible results. So
It's
we're
awesome.
trying that with guys, and not just having like those really produced looking things, but like picture of guy on a surfboard and some of that stuff
Yeah,
to see if that's
yeah,
going to make a difference. So I think that's
yeah, for
really really
sure.
interesting.
Test it out. Yeah.
So, one of the things that this is a great question by my friend Chris, and I wanted to bring this up. He goes, "Have you been able to get learnings from Facebook ads and your clients applying them to other parts of the business? So, like seeing what branding pivots work or copy for blogs or any of that kind of stuff from learning from your Facebook ads."
Yeah, I mean that's a great strategy. I haven't done that a ton, but I do think it levels up your writing for sure, cuz if you're writing and seeing that the click-through rate is really good on that copy, you
Hmm.
like I've definitely like seen it kind of feed off of each other where we're like, hey, that was a great way that you wrote that, let's put that on the sales page, and just kind of cross pollinate those ideas for sure. I think that one thing that Facebook ads can do for you is really understand what your market responds to. So it's what we do a lot of times is say, okay, let's test these different lead magnets with these different topics and see what gets us the best opt-ins. So we might do like a quiz versus here's a cheat sheet versus a
Hmm.
e-guide or something
Hmm.
like that, and then really know what's getting the best response so that we can promote that in other places and hopefully, give people what they want essentially. So,
That's great. That's a great idea.
So the most crucial part of any ad, of course, is the offer, right? Getting them to click or do whatever action, the
yeah.
call to action, calling them to the action, right? So what is
Yep.
the secret to getting users' attention in this regard? What makes them click on an ad right away? Because we don't want to keep serving them ads. We want them to click on that first one and be like,
I
oh, I love
know.
that wedding photo. I must click on it,
Right.
right? Or, and then also, I guess a second part of this is, do you have a formula or a format that you use to create really great offers? Because you can go wild with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it again comes down to like what are the pain points that people are talking about? What are you really solving for your clients and really leaning into that quite a bit. So the other thing that's working really well, and I don't this is kind of not is a little bit tangential and it just like popped in my head. The other thing that's working really well is kind of these really long form ads that are really more of a story-based ad. And that has been really interesting for people because it gets them reading the story. We're kind of hardwired for stories, and it could be a story about like your journey and how you came to offer this or how this helped you, or it could be a really long testimonial story. So I've done both of those types of ads for clients. And so that way, when they get to your landing page, when they get to your offer, they're already like a little primed, and so you want to, get them excited about that offer to click over and give you their name and email address, because I think for sure people are way more picky about what they subscribe to, where they're putting their information in. And so you want to look at that landing page conversion rate to make sure that that offer is good. So how many people are hitting that page, and then how many people are then subscribing? And if you're doing your ads right, you should see at least a 30% conversion rate for a free thing. So you may not see like the price, the right price point, because maybe it's costing you a lot to get people over there, or maybe they're not clicking through, maybe. But if you've got a good free thing, you should see a good conversion rate on that. And if you're not seeing at least 30% conversion rate, you want to come back and say, okay, could we test something else? Could we make this landing page better? Or could we make this offer more compelling somehow? And what, can we draw out more of the pain points? Can we draw out more of the transformation someone's going to get after they get this thing? What are they going to get from it?
I think that's genius. I mean, especially like making sure your landing page. A lot of people neglect that, like, because they're coming from mobile or there's something like that. You really got to dive into the landing page. Unfortunately, we are like right at the end. Like Andrea's got to run, but this is, I could pick her brain for another hour. You guys have had some great questions. And, Avina says, she goes, I'm a sucker for story ads. Like, yeah. So even diving into that, we could have a whole show just on Andrea talking about that. But I want to give Andrea enough time that you guys can find her, find out what she's doing, all the stuff that she's offering, her podcast, all this stuff. So Andrea, you take the rest of the time you need to talk about what you got going on and where people can find you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been so fun. Thanks everyone for all your questions. Great questions coming in. You can find me for most things, including some stand-up comedy, over at AndreaVahl.com, AndreaVahl.com. And that has my blog posts there. You can also get connected to my Late Starters podcast there, which is latestartersclub.com if you want to go directly there. And that has some really amazing inspirational interviews and top tools and tips there as well for people starting something new and exciting in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. And then one other thing I'll just plug here, next week on February 15th, I have a half-day training on your Facebook and Instagram ads funnel. And that's over, it's on my events tab on my page, or you can find it at AndreaVahl.com/half-day workshop. Is that right? Half-day workshop, I think.
So make sure, go, you guys go over to, if you're listening to on the podcast, it's AndreaVahl.com. It's AndreaVahl.com. Make sure you guys go check her out, because she is amazing, as you can tell from the show today. We've got some great comments. Gary says, such a great show today. I appreciate the wisdom. Gary, thank you for being here and your comment. I appreciate all you do for the show, Gary. And then Avina says, thank you so much for this. You're the best, Andrea. We love you. So she brought her fans with her. So appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. Let us know some shows that you would love us to do, what topics we talk about. We got media kits coming up at the end of this month because you guys asked for that. So let us know what we could do to help you guys out. As always, we appreciate you. We appreciate our sponsor, Ecamm, for making this show possible. You can find out more about them at socialnewslive.com/Ecamm. Make sure you go check out Andrea's podcast, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.